Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well. We are more than halfway through Lent right now, and as we get closer to Easter, we'll have to start talking about a few things to make us understand what Easter is really about. And there is something that Jesus says in today's gospel that can help us a little bit start understanding what Easter is about. So we're going to do something a little bit different today. So instead of reading the whole gospel, I'm just going to read one sentence that Jesus says in that gospel because he talks about a story that maybe we don't know. And so I'll just tell you that story, and that will also help us a little bit start getting more information about Easter. So in this gospel, Jesus is talking to an old man who is very important, who everybody respects very much. And this man is very curious about who Jesus is, but he doesn't want people to know that he is curious. So he goes to see Jesus at night when nobody's looking, when nobody sees him, okay? And he begins to have a conversation with Jesus. And in the middle of that conversation, we get what Jesus says to him in this Sunday's gospel. And this is the sentence that he says: "Just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, so that everyone who believes in him may have eternal life." Just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. Well, if you don't know the story, that doesn't make too much sense. So I have to tell you that story. And that story takes place a long time before Jesus, okay? So like more than 1,000 years before Jesus. And it takes place in a desert. And the important person in that story is Moses. Now you maybe know who Moses is, maybe you don't know. If you don't know who Moses is, I think you should tell your parents to show you the movie The Prince of Egypt, okay? The Prince of Egypt is an awesome movie, and it will help you understand who Moses is, and it will also help you to prepare for Easter. So, The Prince of Egypt, okay? Very awesome movie. Now, Moses is somebody that God calls and gives him a very important mission. God had chosen already a certain person. His name was Abraham. And God had told Abraham, if you follow me, if you do what I ask you to do, I will protect you and your children, and I will be your God. I will accompany you always. I will give you anything you need. I will be like a father to you. And Abraham followed what God said, and God blessed him. And his son was Isaac, and he also followed God. And Isaac had another son, and his son was Jacob, and he also followed God. And so God had chosen this family to tell them who he is and to be with them, to protect them, okay? So a few years later, Jacob's children, he had 12, Jacob's children went to this place called Egypt. And in Egypt, they became like a lot of people. So many that the people that lived in Egypt got scared. And they said, with all these people that have come from a different place and are living in our country, and they are being more and more, maybe one day they want to take over. So they're scared of that. And so the king of Egypt, his name is Pharaoh, says, we're going to make these people, this big family that's become a lot of people, we're going to make them slaves. What does it mean to be a slave? A slave means that somebody else tells you what to do. Somebody else is going to tell you how you have to live, where you have to live. They're going to tell you when you can eat and when you can go to the bathroom and how much you have to work, everything. Somebody that tells you everything that you have to do, and you have no choice but to do it. Because if you don't do it, you get not just in trouble, you get killed. So this is what it means to be a slave. So these people that God had said, I'm going to protect you, I'm going to take care of you, these people became slaves. And they were very sad, obviously. They were very upset because somehow they thought God had forgotten about them. And they forgot about God. And so God chooses this person. His name is Moses. And he says to him, I want you to go and take my people away from that place, from Egypt, and make them free. And Moses says, I can't do it alone. This is a big country. There's a lot of people. They're not going to let me do it. And God says, I will be with you. And so Moses goes. It's a whole story that I'm not telling you now, but I'll tell you soon. And basically, he brings the people out of slavery. They become free, and they go through the Red Sea. God opens the sea, makes big miracles happen, and they become free, which is the best thing that could ever happen to them, okay? And so they begin to go through this desert. They're going to go to another land, to another place that God said, I'm going to give you this place for you to live. This is going to be your country, and I'm going to take you there. But to take you there, you have to go through this desert. You know, deserts. There's nothing there. There's no food. There's very little drink. It's very hot during the day. It's very cold during the night. It's uncomfortable. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, about being in the desert. So they begin to go to the desert. Remember, they are not slaves anymore. They are free. God has freed them. They should be happy. But after a little while, they begin to notice that even though they are free, they are not as comfortable as they would like to be. Because before, yes, the people from Egypt told them what they could eat or not eat, when they could eat, when they could not eat. But now they start complaining. They say, well, wait, here we don't have any food. Here we don't have any drink. At least when we were slaves, at least there we had something. It was nasty. It was bad. We didn't like it. But here, what do we have? Once in a while, we get a little something. We go thirsty, and they start complaining. And the Bible says they start complaining against Moses and against God. And so God does something a little strange. He sends poisonous snakes. Poisonous snakes. And these poisonous snakes, if they bite you, they kill you. They bite you, you get sick, and you die. And the people start dying. And they go to Moses, and they say, we're sorry. We complain too much. We need help. These snakes are killing us all. We don't know what to do. And so Moses goes to God and says, these people, they're saying they're sorry. What can we do? These snakes are killing them. What can we do? And God says to Moses, make a snake out of metal and put it on a stick and lift it up and raise it up. And anyone who is sick because they were bitten by a snake, when they look at the snake, they will be healed. And that's what happens. So Jesus says, just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. Who is the Son of Man? Jesus. Okay. God took care of his people. God freed them. God took them away from being slaves and made them free. God took them through the desert and protected them and guided them and cared for them. But they still complained. And they complained because things were not the way they wanted. And they started complaining against God, saying, it is better that you had not done this. It is better if we went back to where we were. And this makes the snakes come and poison them. Why is this important? Because complaining is like a poison. You don't see it, you don't notice it, but slowly it begins to change who you are inside. They started to complain against Moses and against God. And like a poison, it started changing them and making them angry and making them sad. We complain many times. We complain because things are not the way we like them. We complain because we don't have everything we want. We complain because we have to do things we don't want. And usually we complain against our parents. We complain maybe against our brothers or sisters. But whenever we complain against our parents or our brother or our sister or our teacher, we're always complaining about God. Because God gave you this mom. God gave you this dad. God gave you this brother. God gave you this sister. God gave you that teacher. God gave you that situation. And if I complain about it, and if I say I don't want it to be this way, who am I telling that to? My parents? Sure, but I'm really telling God. We're saying to God, you're making a mistake. I don't like what you are doing. And we are complaining against him. And that is like a poison in our heart that begins to make us sad and angry and lonely and upset. So God tells Moses, lift up the serpent. Lift it up. And if people look at it, they will be healed. And then Jesus says, in the same way, the Son of Man, meaning Jesus, will be lifted up so that everyone who sees him will be saved. Why? Because God does this crazy thing. And the crazy thing is that he turns the things that are bad and that make us complain and makes them into wonderful things. The serpent that was killing the people was what God used to save them. And Jesus, when was he lifted up? On the cross. And what happened to Jesus on the cross? He died. But anyone who looks at Jesus on the cross will be saved. So for us, this means that even when things are not the way we want them to be, even if what we want to do is complain, even if the situation or the moment in which we are right now makes us angry or sad or upset, God says, if you understand that I love you, even now, with that thing that you're complaining about, if you understand that, you won't complain anymore. You won't be sad. You won't be angry, because I am going into that thing that you don't like and changing it. And that is what he does on the cross. We will talk more about Moses and the people in the desert as we get closer to Easter. But for this week, just think about this. All the things that we complain about, maybe God lets those things happen because there he wants to say, I love you. Don't forget that. All right, my friends, be strong, take care, and we'll see you soon.